AI compliance can feel fragmented. Regulations, privacy, security, risk, and audits, all pulling in different directions. ISO IEC 42001 gives us a management system anchor, turning those obligations into controls, evidence, and repeatable governance for trustworthy AI. So far, you have built the internal foundation for an AI management system. Scope, boundaries, inventories, controls, risk, impact, policy, accountability, and operating model. Now the focus shifts outward. Regulatory and standards alignment connects those governance choices to AI regulation, privacy law, security standards, and enterprise compliance. This prepares you to translate requirements into governed architecture in Module 3. AI governance rarely comes from one source. A single system may need to satisfy AI legislation, privacy and security rules, sector requirements, procurement terms, and internal policies at the same time. ISO IEC 42001 gives us a way to bring those obligations into one management system, rather than treating each one as a separate project. For solution architects, the key move is translation, turning legal and policy expectations into design controls, system capabilities, monitoring metrics, and evidence. Done well, that alignment reduces duplication and creates a compliance architecture that can evolve as requirements change. Across jurisdictions, AI rules differ in legal detail, but they often ask the same practical questions. How risky is this system, given its purpose, users, autonomy, and possible harm? What must people be told, and can they understand the decision well enough to challenge it? Who is accountable, and when can a human intervene? How will the organization detect drift, failures, complaints, or incidents after deployment? A risk-based AI management system turns these recurring expectations into repeatable governance. Classify, document, explain, oversee, monitor, report, and improve. ISO IEC 42001 becomes useful when regulatory themes are translated into operating practices. Connect obligations such as transparency, accountability, human oversight, privacy, and safety to the AIM's lifecycle. Context, scope, leadership, planning, support, operation, evaluation, and improvement. Use AI risk and impact assessments to understand exposure and stakeholder harm. Then apply annex controls to turn expectations into architecture, documentation, monitoring, and approval activities. Continual improvement keeps the system aligned as regulations change, evidence accumulates, and AI behavior shifts in production. Risk classification should act like an architectural signal, not a paperwork step. It begins with the use case, deployment context, decision impact, autonomy, data sensitivity, stakeholder exposure, and whether harm can be reversed. That classification drives the control baseline. Higher risk means stronger documentation, validation, explainability, human oversight, audit logging, and monitoring. It also determines who reviews the design and what evidence is needed before release. Most importantly, classification is not permanent. If the model, data, users, or environment changes, reassess the risk and adapt the architecture. Transparency starts with a simple obligation. People should know when AI is involved, what it is meant to do, and where its limits are. Explainability then adapts that information to the audience. A user needs a plain language reason they can act on. An operator needs signals for monitoring and intervention. Auditors and compliance teams need evidence, such as model cards, data lineage, validation results, decision logs, and risk assessments. The architectural challenge is to capture and retrieve this evidence reliably, without weakening security or slowing the system down. Human oversight works best when it is built into the AI workflow from the start. Before a model goes live, someone must approve its purpose, data, risks, and operating limits. During use, higher risk outputs need thresholds that trigger review, escalation, or rejection rather than automatic action. Teams also need practical controls: override, rollback, suspension, and exception handling. Accountability means these controls have named owners, not vague committees. The evidence trail should show who approved decisions, when issues were escalated, how overrides were handled, and whether oversight reduced risk. AI governance cannot sit apart from security. Every AI system depends on data pipelines, models, APIs, cloud platforms, prompts, and often third parties. Each layer creates a threat surface. AIMS controls should connect directly to established security practices. ISO 27001, secure development, cloud baselines, access management, encryption, logging, vulnerability management, and incident response. Then add AI-specific threats such as prompt injection, data poisoning, model theft, training data leakage, insecure plugins, and unsafe outputs. The strongest evidence is shared evidence. Architecture reviews, threat models, penetration tests, access reviews, and incident records that support both security assurance and AI governance. Privacy alignment means privacy is engineered into the AI lifecycle, not checked at the end. Ask what personal data is truly needed, why it is used, and what lawful basis supports that use. Then carry those decisions through training, testing, inference, logging, monitoring, and improvement. A DPIA can be combined with the AI impact assessment, so teams evaluate risk once, consistently. Architecturally, favor pseudonymization, encryption, access separation, controlled environments, and clear retention rules. Also remember that prompts, embeddings, telemetry, feedback, outputs, and derived data can all create privacy obligations. Data governance is where AI compliance becomes very practical. You need to know what data entered the system, where it came from, how it changed, and whether it is allowed for this specific use. Lineage should not stop at training data. It should follow validation, testing, inference, feedback, monitoring, and retraining. Retention rules also need to cover more than raw records. Features, embeddings, prompts, logs, labels, outputs, and evaluation sets all matter. When this is documented, governance evidence supports fairness reviews, explainability, privacy obligations, audits, and investigations when something goes wrong. Consider an enterprise chatbot. It may use an external LLM API, a vector database, cloud hosting, open source libraries, labeling support, and internal support tickets. Compliance risk now extends across that whole chain. Due diligence should test each vendor's security, privacy, data use, governance, transparency, and auditability. Contracts should define whether customer data can train models, how long data is retained, where processing occurs, and how incidents are reported. Architects should capture every dependency in the AI inventory, assign responsibility boundaries, and link each vendor to risks, controls, monitoring evidence, and continuity plans. Traceability turns compliance from a document exercise into an evidence chain. Begin with the obligations that apply to the AI system: laws, regulations, standards, and internal policies. Each obligation becomes a control objective, then a concrete architecture requirement, then an implementation control and test. The critical step is linking everything with stable identifiers, so Reg01 connects to Control01, Arch01, and EV01. That chain lets teams prove why a control exists, assess change impact quickly, accept residual risk deliberately, and answer auditors, customers, or regulators with evidence instead of explanation. The goal is to stop treating compliance as separate projects. A mature AI program creates one common control framework that maps ISO IEC 1420001 to AI regulations, security standards, privacy rules, sector obligations, and internal policies. It also reuses what already exists. Security, privacy, cloud, data governance, and enterprise risk controls can often be inherited instead of rebuilt. The architecture defines reusable patterns for common AI use cases, such as analytics, decision support, generative assistance, and autonomous workflows. Finally, compliance becomes continuous. Monitor controls, test them, automate evidence, track regulatory change, and bring results into management review. The big takeaway is that ISO IEC 1421 becomes practical when it is connected to regulations, security, privacy, and evidence. Traceability turns requirements into architecture decisions, controls, tests, monitoring, and audit-ready proof. In Module 3, we move from alignment into design, applying these ideas to governed AI reference architectures and data governance patterns.